Alright, let's talk about Transaction Pro Importer. This solution is most widely used for sending Allmoxy data into QuickBooks desktop versions. So at current, this is the most effective way to get information out of Allmoxy and into QuickBooks. Transaction Pro Importer has proven itself to be a good tool among lots of Allmoxy users, with a track record of getting the job done accurately. They do have QuickBooks Online versions, but in this class we're going to focus exclusively on the desktop version. Now, please keep in mind that this is a third-party software, and as such, you'll need to take your specific questions related to tech support to them. However, we do want to go as far as we can and help you get started. So we'll give you the link to the download page to get the app in the class notes below. At present, here's what the Intuit QuickBooks apps page looks like, and here's what their company webpage looks like. So download and install Transaction Pro Importer. You should then get an email with an activation code. And through the installation and activation process, you'll be ready to start setting it up to work with Allmoxy. Once you've installed the software, you'll be brought to a screen that looks like this. Click on the About button and make sure the activation says activated. If it doesn't, click on the activation button to put in your login and password. This should be located in the email from Transaction Pro. The next step you need to take is make sure that your file source is selected as File. By hitting Browse, you're looking for the file that you're going to import. This you'll do every single time you want to import a file. You'll want to set up a good system with those you work with so that you can know which files have been imported, know which ones still need to be imported, and make sure you don't get double entry. It's a good practice to download to a single folder every single time and delete the file right after you import it. Set the field delimiter to comma, since we're using commas to separate our values, and the record to CRLF. Select which type of import you want to create. In this case, we're going to do an invoice. By clicking on options, you'll see all kinds of different options. We're not going to go into all of the options that Transaction Pro Import includes right now, but you can see the basic settings that a successful import would have. Okay, so once you've got that done, go ahead and find the file that you're going to import. Click Next, and you'll be brought to this page. Now, it's important to note that the very first time you do this, you're going to map the fields and basically create the template for all the next times that you're going to do this. So this first time will take a little bit longer, but from then on it'll be done, and you won't have to repeat this part of the process. So once you choose the file, you'll be brought to this page where you'll be able to see the different columns that it brought in from Allmoxy. Make sure that if your first row has field names that you check this box. Hitting Next will take you to the next page, which will allow you to match up the fields. So again, the first time you do this, you'll need to match up each of these fields, and this will only have to be done once. So there are a couple things to keep in mind while you set this up. You'll need to do a little bit of preparation in QuickBooks to get this right. You'll need to set all the tax items up in QuickBooks for the different states you're going to be selling in. Allmoxy exports it as a state, so something like FL sales tax. But in QuickBooks, you'll need to enter each of those individually as a tax ID. Also, you need to do this with your list, the item list of things you want to sell in QuickBooks. Now, most people will use export classes in Allmoxy as their list of things they're selling. You could, however, if you wanted to, list each single product in QuickBooks, and if you did it the right way and made the labels the exact same, they would come in just fine. We would recommend, however, using export classes and grouping multiple products into different classes. For example, cabinet box components could house lots of different box components. Now, one thing to be aware of is the sales tax code coming in from Allmoxy and the sales tax item in QuickBooks may be interchangeable. So you'll need to play around with those to make sure that you get them in the right one, because the titles can sometimes be misleading. Once you get the fields matched up, go ahead and save your map. Make sure to save it in a place that it won't be bothered, somewhere where you won't be messing with it and nobody will delete it. At that point, hit Next and watch it process. This page will usually stay the same. Just go ahead and hit Finish. At that point, if you so choose, you can review the files that have been imported and save them, or just simply close out the page. The next time you go to import a file, it'll automatically detect your last import template. So by doing nothing and hitting next, you'll be able just to use the same as last time. Or you can load a new one so as to have multiples. So after checking this one out, we realized that we had the items coming in wrong. We wanted to use export classes, but we ended up using product names instead. So in this example, we have to go back and change that. So we resave the import mapping file, delete the invoice, and try again. And after finding the invoice number, we can see that it did work and it came in just right. So there it is. We successfully downloaded, activated, set up Transaction Pro Importer, and imported an invoice. Now every time you're going to do this, you just repeat the same process once a day or once an hour, however often you need to do this.